We're about 6 billion people in the world. 1 billion people come from developed countries like yourself. That's the North Atlantic, North Americans and Western Europeans. And it is, of course, Japan and maybe 4 other Asian tigers. But the majority of people are not in that situation. 5 billion of us come from what is called the developing world or the third world and former Soviet Union countries. And we all have, as a characteristic, the fact that we were, until a few years ago, really following other systems than the capitalist system, other systems than open market economies. And since the fall of the Berlin Wall, also since Deng Xiaoping in 1978 started marching in a different direction in China, when he said, "I don't care what color a cat is as long as it catches mice," we've all begun to change. And we've all been trying to get our macroeconomics into place. We've all been making sure that we've got fiscal balance. We've all been making sure we don't issue too much currency. We've trying to get our accounts in order. And especially by the time the Berlin Wall fell, the general expectation, helped along by a colleague and friend of mine, Francis Fukuyama, was that this was the end of history. Now there's only one game in town. It's capitalism. And we're all going to thrive. It will take some time, but we're all basically going to get there. And if you take away North Korea and maybe a couple of other countries, every other country in the world, over 200, that we have been following that road. But if you look at the newspapers, and of course, as you study, you'll find out that we're not all being successful. We've all made progress. I think the numbers are there. But at the same time, of course, expectations have risen incredibly. And there's a lot of people unsatisfied. One of these insatisfactions is manifested by the anti-globalization movement. And I understand you're going to have Jagdish Bhagwati in this university, who's a fantastic economist, and he has studied the anti-globalization movement. What he can tell you about them is that basically anti-globalization means anti-capitalism, anti-free trade, anti the kind of system that has obviously brought around at least your manicured lawns and your landscaped roads and these beautiful buildings and the high standard of living and the quality of life, which you obviously have. But through television, and because you visited, because you know about it, you also know that that's not the case in Afghanistan. It's not the case in Iraq. It's not the case in Saudi Arabia. They were earning, I think, 10, 15 years ago, about $28,000 gross national product per capita, and now they're down to about 7,000. So the news isn't necessarily very good. You know from what you've seen in Pakistan that it's not really working out. There's more violence than there was before. You can see the poverty. Now it screams out at you. You can see especially the exclusion. Some people are excluded from being able to do the right kind of things. You can see that even in Latin America, which we thought, had been won over in the 90s to the good causes of the West, that now you have governments that actually talk against the West. It's a case of Venezuela and its reliance on its Cuban alliance, and you see the problems in Sudan. Russia can't quite get on its feet, even though it has made progress. Recently, a Bolivian president just got thrown out. You've got guerrillas in Colombia. So, in effect, it's not an easy road. Now, the conclusion that sort of leads to you to is that, at least it leads me to, is that it's not that capitalism has won, it's that communism has failed. Capitalism has yet to win, among other things, because it's the word that is never said in sympathy. It's not a nice word. I personally, and I've really traveled around the world, have never seen somebody get in the middle of a square and say, "Long live capitalism." That just doesn't happen. Probably doesn't even happen here. Nasty words. Guys with long tail coats and striped pants. It's not the kind of word you want to get around. And when you bring in, you talk all sorts of other things. And when you have bad memory, when you have bad lessons to give, you don't talk about failures. You talk about structural adjustment. You talk about retooling. But nobody says the real words, which is that you fail, and you got to try again. And so there are many explanations going around. And one of the strongest explanations, of course, is the cultural one, because it's the easiest one to assimilate. And it makes us all feel very good, especially if we come from the North Atlantic. And that says that culturally, some people are just more prepared for the capitalist system than others. This was an old argument of a great master, Max Weber,